think we're live.
All right. Okay, Dan, looks like we are live. And what an awesome time. The timing couldn't be any better to be hosting this session with all of the things that's been happening especially the announcements from Kusama and the Parachain. So really wanted to thank you for making your time and, making your time and coming in to share some of the things that's happening in the Polkadot Kusama ecosystem. So we do have quite a few number of people on the call joined as well live, and hopefully everybody could hear as well. So what we'll do is, Dan, why don't we kick off with knowing you a little bit more about who you are, how you really got into the blockchain industry, and then what really gets you out of bed on a daily basis. And so if we can kick it off with that, and then we'll dive into our agenda.
Cool. And thank you for setting this up and being such a proactive and active ambassador for Acala and Karura. This actually, the timing couldn't be really any better. We kind of, I think everyone got a little bit blindsided by all the progress and announcements around Kusama yesterday. I think it was yesterday. It's all this is starting to blend together now, but so we're actually in one of the most exciting kind of periods of time in the last year and a half or so since Kusama launched. Because over time, like we had Kusama launch, it's basically kind of a bare relay chain. We had Polkadot launch the same, but everything's been leading up to this next phase where Parachains start launching. To start with a little background on myself, like you asked. So I've been working in the blockchain and crypto industry for about 3 years, actually exactly 3 years to this month of May. I had a background in business information systems. I'm from Indiana. I went to Indiana University, a big college basketball fan. I moved from Bloomington, Indiana to Indianapolis and spent 4 years in the pharmaceutical industry doing kind of digital marketing and brand marketing for medicines. And then in 2017, I had been for 4 years, since school, I had been following Bitcoin and crypto, and then decided in 2017 to pursue my MBA. And I took the GMAT a few times and decided to leave the pharmaceutical industry to go get my MBA. But I had this 6-month gap before school, and I decided to just take a chance, move to Austin, Texas, and go work for a crypto startup just to get experience before school. So I went to work for a company called WanChain that was doing like cross-chain, similar cross-chain stuff back then, and it kind of actually snowballed and turned into a full-time job offer. So I actually decided to scrap the MBA, save myself a ton of money in debt, and go straight into crypto. And I'm very glad with that decision. So spent a year and a half at WanChain leading their marketing, and then started thinking about next steps, and that's what led me to the Web3 Foundation. So moved to Web3 Foundation, worked on their essentially marketing team as well, the growth and community team, where I also spent about a year and a half and launched Polkadot and Kusama. And then as of February 1st, I started at Acala. So been working on this team, preparing for the launch of Karura and Acala, and got a lot of work ahead of us, but it's going to be an exciting 2021.
Awesome, Dan. Wow. This is a great example of, how fast the things are happening in the blockchain industry. We talked about 3 years and the things that you got involved. It is, in the industry itself, on a normal standard technology industry, it would be like a 30 years of something like what you're talking about. So you went into Web3 Foundation and did quite a lot of work in that space. So why don't we probably start off with just an overview. I know there's a lot of the folks on the call want to go really into the Acala products and then, the Parachain, what is happening, how long it's going to take. We're going to get to that pretty quickly. If you can maybe just touch on Web3, Polkadot, Kusama at a really high level overview, and then we can probably go and spend the rest of the 10 minutes, 15 minutes at the end talking about really Acala, and then take some questions.
Yep, cool. Yeah, and just so everyone knows, I think we're shooting for making this around a half hour. We can go a little bit over, but we're going to try to keep it fairly short. So Web3 Foundation and Parity are two organizations that Gavin Wood started when he left Ethereum after inventing the Ethereum virtual machine and inventing the Solidity programming language. He moved on to create Polkadot and Substrate when he realized that Ethereum wasn't going to scale. He had pretty incredible foresight, as we're sitting now, what is it, five or so years later, and he was exactly right. The gas fees are out of control. Things aren't able to scale, so we're getting ready to actually trying to help solve that problem with Polkadot and Kusama. Web3 Foundation and Parity were both founded by Gavin. Web3 is the nonprofit organization based in Zug, Switzerland. That's where we have brilliant researchers that are kind of like leading the way with all the new innovation with Polkadot and Substrate and Kusama. And then there's also kind of, I don't know, the administrative team, finance, HR, all of that. And then at Parity, there's much more people. I think they've got probably around 150 people now. Parity is, in my opinion, one of the biggest advantages for Polkadot and Kusama, because they've got 100+ world-class developers coming to work every single day to build this technology. So Parity's primarily developers. They've also got business development teams, marketing teams, events people. So yeah, they're all doing a great job on kind of leading the way with this ecosystem. But the thought is that Parity's only building one builder for the ecosystem, but over time there will be more and more teams that become kind of low-level Polkadot and Kusama or Substrate development shops. So we'll start to see the ecosystem grow in that regard too. So those are the two organizations that you'll hear quite often in direct association with the technology. Then I guess moving up one layer to the parachain layer, Polkadot and Kusama, of course, are enabling this multi-chain ecosystem. And those layer one blockchains that are launching on Polkadot and on Kusama are referred to as Parachains, which I'm guessing most people on this call are pretty well versed in their Polkadot lingo by now. If you have any questions as we go through this, just post them in the ask a question or in the chat. But what Acala is building, I'll stick to Acala and Polkadot for now, but we can get into all the other Karura and Kusama too, just so I don't have to constantly keep saying Polkadot and Kusama. So Acala is building this DeFi optimized layer one blockchain platform. And I'll get into some slides just to give you some visuals in a second, but we're building this blockchain that's equivalent to Ethereum. It's a layer one chain. And within the blockchain itself, we've built in specific DeFi primitives, as they're called, which is way too technical. It's basically a product. And with that product, you can build applications on top of our blockchain. So you've all probably heard about the Acala dollar stablecoin, the Acala DEX, which is similar to Uniswap, and then liquid dot staking. All of these products are not what you're used to on Ethereum, where they're built as applications on Ethereum. These are products built into the blockchain itself at the layer one blockchain level. And then when you build applications on top of that blockchain, on top of Acala, you can actually leverage the products that are built inside of the chain. So when you go to apps.acala.network, it's already live today. Those applications that will soon be live on Karura soon, all leverage the DeFi primitives or products that we've built inside of the blockchain. Karura is, like I just mentioned, Karura is actually our biggest focus right now, which is our first product launch, our first crowd loan that will start soon. Karura is essentially the exact same as Acala, but more geared towards the Kusama community and the KSM token as a collateral or as a part of the DeFi hub that we're building. So the stablecoin, instead of being backed by Bitcoin, ETH, DOT on the Polkadot side, the KUSD stablecoin will be backed by things like KSM, Bitcoin as well, Ethereum, and so on. And then liquid staking on the Karura side, there will be liquid staking for Kusama instead of DOT. And this is probably what I'm most excited about in terms of products, which is the ability to stake KSM and not have all utility of that token basically gone. So currently you can stake your KSM, but once you stake, you kind of just set it and forget it, watch the returns come in, but that's about it. With liquid staking, you can essentially you'll probably, like, when it really comes down to the step-by-step process, you'll unbond and kind of take it and transfer it from Polkadot.js or whatever you're using. You would transfer it. No, sorry, that's wrong. You would connect your Polkadot.js extension to the Acala or the Karura UI, and then just stake directly in through the Karura website. So it's going to be apps.acala.network. And then stake your Karura, or stake your Kusama, and then get a liquid version of that LKSM that you can go use to get a loan in KUSD stablecoin. You can provide liquidity to the DEX. So it's going to unlock additional opportunities to basically earn interest on Kusama.
Awesome, Dan. That's a mouthful in terms of, obviously, some of these terms that's coming through, right? So we talked about Kusama, we talked about Acala, and there's a lot of new products. So what we want to also probably touch on here is, I'm looking at the time. We're hitting the almost nearly 15 minutes into the session. Why don't we go dive a little bit more deep into the Acala products and the ecosystem, and then maybe the real two things that I think would be worth sharing with the audiences here is about the recent crowd loan campaign that we had, as well as probably next steps. Like everybody's been staking Kusama and waiting for these parachain auctions to be really kicked off. So now that announcement is probably it happened. So maybe it's worth sharing that with the audiences here in terms of what is some of the things the community can actually start planning for, and then be part of these the new innovations that are happening in this DeFi area.
Cool. Yeah. So let's. So I just explained Acala and Karura. Let me just give you a quick visual that we just made. Shout out to Chloe on our team. We have an awesome designer. Awesome. So I love working with her. So this helps a lot, because what I explained about how Acala and Karura are both two things. They're a platform and they're applications. This, from my understanding, this has not really been done before. Like what this is. So at the base layer here, this is Kusama, where once we win a parachain auction, we get the right to basically plug into this network for the validators, so the security here, and then the cross-chain ability to communicate with other networks. Then one layer up here, layer 1, you've got our blockchain. So this is Karura. When I mentioned earlier these primitives that are built into the chain, this is showing these kind of building blocks here. We also have our own oracles, our treasury, the Acala EVM, which allows people to build Ethereum compatible applications on Karura. And then one layer up, this is our application, but then here and here, this is meant to show this is a platform where more and more teams will be building applications leveraging these primitives built into the Karura blockchain. So hopefully that helps with that.
It's a great diagram, great picture. It's simplifies thousands of words, so really nice.
Exactly. So now let's get into what happened the last couple of days. So I guess, I don't know. I assume most people on the call know generally what crowd loans and parachain auctions are. Just to like very, very quickly recap, we want to launch Karura on Kusama, and in order to gain a slot on Kusama, we need to win an auction that's going to happen soon against other parachain teams who also want to launch in this first slot. So leading up to the auction, we're going to be starting what's called a crowd loan, where community members can contribute KSM to support our bid in that auction. So say, for example, 1,000 KSM gets sent to the Karura crowd loan. Then when we start the auction, we would be bidding 1,000 KSM that we crowdsourced from the community. So that's how that works. People have been asking when parachains and when crowd loans for months, and we can finally answer the question. So that's what was announced yesterday. It's still in progress. There's a lot of steps, and there's way too much to go through. But at the highest level, what happened was the Kusama Council approved an upgrade. So Kusama is able to upgrade without forks, and same with Polkadot, which is a huge advantage over. I was just trying to figure this out on Twitter today if ETH2 would have this, and it looks like no. So we have the ability to upgrade without forks. So that means we can constantly improve Kusama at the base layer without messing up everything and splitting the community. So the upgrade was pushed through council. So this is not a network that's owned by one person or just a few people who get to determine the future of the network. Kusama is governed by an elected group of people who are elected by KSM token holders. So any upgrade has to go through them. So the developers at Parity finished the testing and all of this over the last few months, and then proposed it as a change. That got approved, and then it went to a community vote. I'm not exactly sure if that's finalized yet, but it will be. And then as soon as that happens, all of the crowd loan parachain auction code will go live on Kusama, basically giving the ability to begin launching these things. So we will see soon more official announcements from Kusama and from Parity with like exact details of what's happening, what's next. But the understanding is that in the near future, we'll be able to kick off a crowd loan for Karura. So as of yesterday, today, it's probably a good idea to start unbonding KSM if you want to participate in these crowd loans, because it could be starting before 7 days from now. So because the 7-day Kusama unbonding period, then sometime I know we have Decoded next week. We're all just waiting to see when the announcement will be made for the beginning of the parachain auction. So you've got the crowd loan first, then the official auction start date. Then the auction will be open and running. We're also waiting on the exact duration of that auction.
Yeah.
But that will happen. And then we will be bidding our opening bid in the auction with what we with the KSM from the crowd loan. And then if Karura wins the auction, then we could, it's crazy to think about this, but we could have Karura live and beginning to launch our products and get liquidity in these primitives that I talked about really like as soon as June. So
yeah,
it's all going to come very fast. I know everyone on every Parachain team, Parity, everyone right now is just kind of going extremely hard, trying to get ready.
That's really good. To kind of get ready, and then the community can also participate in it. By the way, I just wanted to put a caveat here. There's none of these things are any personal financial advice or anything like that. So it's for information purposes only. So now, Dan, like you talked about the Parachain auction. So there is a limited time that the auctions will take place. Can you go a little bit more detail in terms of, so at the start, the auctions will open, and then there will be a period where the crowd loan cap is going to be set. Can you touch a little bit more next level in terms of the mechanisms of the auction?
Yeah, in terms of a crowd loan cap, and I guess there's a lot of parameters that we just announced yesterday. So
yeah.
For Karura specifically, it's there's a ratio for every 1 KSM contributed. The contributor would receive at least 12 KAR, or we started just calling it CAR because it's easier. So 12 CAR for every 1 KSM. But I don't know if you've ever done these like liquidity programs or just the concept of like a shared pool. We are, it'll be 11. Let me think. Yeah, 11% of the supply of CAR is reserved for the rewards for this this crowd loan or this parachain auction process. So it depends. The reason why we say 1 to 12 minimum is because that's if we max out the number of participants. So if it's like super crazy, then everyone would get 12. But it's a shared pool, so the less people that would participate, the higher the CAR distribution would be per person, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it can't go below 12. The other thing is the way it works is when you contribute KSM, that is locked at the moment you contribute. But when Karura wins, that KSM would be locked for the duration of our first slot on Kusama, which is 48 weeks. So we've chosen to go for the maximum just because of all the overhead of doing this process. It's not easy. So we're going for that. What else? So the people ask about the minimum. The minimum is it's relatively low. It's 0.1 KSM. And then max, there's not really necessarily a max. There's not a max per person. There's going to be a very high max for the total contribution to our crowd loan. So there's a curve where basically if we reach an incredibly high number, then it wouldn't cap it. I actually would have to ask Eddie how exactly that works.
I think that's great to kind of get the community to start thinking, and also there's a lot of information on our websites as well to go and kind of go in and dive deep, ask the questions. So one of the other things I wanted to really we're looking at the time as well. We got to allow some time for questions at the end. So the step from so we had Kusama to Polkadot, and then obviously from Acala's side of things, it's from Karura to Acala. So our plan here is to launch on Karura. Can you also kind of connect the dots? Once the ecosystem builds and there's traffic and there's momentum takes place in Karura, and what is the pathway into Acala? And then what is the pathway that connects into the Polkadot?
Yeah, so the good thing about Karura and Kusama is that we're kind of getting our first run at this whole process. So I think our team has done a great job so far of being kind of the leader and on the tech side, on the marketing communication side, community side, just making sure that we're always like over communicating, making sure everyone's on the same page and prepared. So we've just learned a lot about, because this is the first crowd loan ever. So we're kind of the first people to do this and learning a lot. And then of course, by the end of this auction, we're going to have learned so much and probably take some time to look back and think about what we could do better, what went well. And then we'll roll all that learning into the Acala process and do it all again, which is crazy to think about. I'm already tired thinking about that, but it's going to be great for Acala and all the parachains that are doing both networks, because you get just experience doing it once. So same thing goes for not only just the process, but also we're building like very real DeFi applications that are going to have massive amounts of liquidity and users coming from all directions. So we're also going to get experience with our products. So the DEX, the stablecoin, all this stuff, we're going to be learning and like seeing in true Kusama spirit, we're going to be seeing this real life economic environment, this economy kind of beginning to flourish on Karura. And then that will also help us. There's so many things that you have to think about that I'm still trying to learn around, like setting interest rates for your DeFi protocols, like everything that you have to think about collaterals and all these very technical financial details. The teams that are worrying about that will be learning from Karura quite a bit and then applying the learnings to Acala too. Yep. And then once Karura and Acala are both live, there will be a bridge between Kusama and Polkadot. So all the value can flow back and forth. Users can easily switch between networks just with a click of a button with their browser extension. And yeah, everything will be kind of working in one cohesive world.
No, that's great. Awesome, Dan. So what we'll do is we will start going through some of the questions that is being posted here. I think there's one in the chat. It's talking about, is there any good tutorials available to get a better understanding of these auctions and crowdfunding?
Yeah, so I've done this little 8-minute video that we've been sending around a lot.
Yeah.
So maybe watch this one, and then in terms of like people are asking how it actually works. We are actually, like before this call, I was working on, we're about to launch our referral program for this whole crowd loan. So there's like 25,000 people that are about to get an email in the next like hour.
Yeah.
And that's really going to start setting things off. So once we get the crowd loan date announced, you will see a video that we do with an exact walkthrough of how to actually do the crowd loan itself. Like, here's where to put, like you'll connect your Polkadot.js extension, you'll put the number of KSM, you'll check some boxes, read some things. So that's not out yet. So we'll have more information on that process. That's for the process that we've built. There's also, keep in mind, Kraken, KuCoin, Huobi, all these exchanges are starting to announce that they're supporting this, as well as wallets like Polka Wallet is the one that we recommend. Everyone that is doing it outside of our area of control will have their own process, their own tutorials and all that stuff. So that will all be rolling out very soon as well.
Yeah, and also, you know, the Web3, the wiki page is so good. There's tons and tons of great information out there. Probably, you know, that's the one for the community to kind of go and spend some time in there. So that's where probably I learned most of the things out of the wiki. It's such a great website. So that's another one.
Yeah.
Hey, there's another questions about the in terms of let me just go back to this.
Yeah, I'm looking at the questions here.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go in there. So will Karura price be pegged to KSM? A little bit more technical, but is there something you can answer now, or?
So it's kind of what I mentioned around the ratio. So it's not, there's nothing about the price that's pegged. It's more of just a number of KSM to KAR. So the minimum is 12 KAR to 1 KSM.
Yeah. Now that's good. Next one. Will the winners are chosen in a random point of time? So this is going back to the auction.
Yeah, this is Tomas. Hey Tomas, good to see you. This is a good question. So when Parity announces how the auction will work, I'm guessing that there will be more detail on exact days. So what will most likely happen is there will be a period of time where we know that the random selection could happen. So let's just make an example. So let's say that the auction is 8 days, and we find out that the random selection period is the second half. So at the beginning of day 5, so you have day 5, 6, 7, 8. If in this example, you as a team, you basically want to be winning at all times during that last 4 days, because at the end of the auction, you know that the randomly selected time will be selected from those last 4 days at any moment. But you won't know that end time, of course, until the end of day 8. And then at that last day, that's the exciting day to look forward to, is the last day of the auction, because at that moment, we will know exactly what block was chosen for who was winning at that time. And then hopefully for us, Karua is the one that was winning, had the highest bid at that time.
Yeah, there you go. That's great. The other question here is, will there be any additional rounds of early build Acala and KIR holders? This is an interesting one. Yeah. The first one there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So there will be another build Acala event. So we just have to wait and see when that would be. So yeah, just the best thing you can do is follow the newsletter, I would say, because that's where we'll communicate all these things.
Yeah. All right. I think we covered most of the questions being posted here, but definitely we will also try and answer some of them offline. So Dan, so one other thing that I really wanted to probably talk to you, I know it's getting a bit late for you as well. It's about, you still haven't answered the question, what gets you out of bed in terms of, because, this industry is a 24-hour around the clock in terms of contributions into making this ecosystem and the whole industry a better place for everyone. Pretty much decentralization touches on so many benefits to everyone around the world. So yeah, would probably want to, if you can touch on that, and then I've got one more questions and then I'll let you go.
Cool. Yeah, it's a good question. There's a few reasons. The first, I think, is especially right now. I say this sometimes, but I legitimately, this is the best team I've ever worked on. Like what you see with Betty, Rutao, Brian, Fuya, if you watched his YouTube video with the translation, if you don't speak Chinese, what you see in public is exactly how they are in every day at work. So it's just like, I love working with great people who are extremely motivated, hardworking, smart. I'm learning from them every day. So I love that part of the work. The other piece is that I love crypto. Like every day, it's fun to wake up. It's addicting, and I think everyone can agree with that. So it's just fun to work on something that you're passionate about. And then the last piece is just like, one thing that I always try to remind myself of is just mostly I think in life, there's family and friends are the most important things that there are. And then how you treat people, and then your legacy that you leave on the world when you're gone. And that's kind of what motivates me longer term, is how can we build technology and opportunities for people that with this scale of technology could impact potentially thousands or millions of people if we do our job well over the next 10 years, 20 years. So that's exciting for me, is to be able to impact people's lives, especially thinking about, like, I'm from the US. I know like Australia, where there's strong currencies, we're somewhat spoiled by the way that life is with a strong currency that you're earning. But now I'm living in Brazil. I know there's been, there's a situation in Venezuela, there's Argentina, there's plenty of other examples around the world where it's not the same when you're earning a currency that is being devalued every year. It's difficult. So
Yeah.
as I'm learning more and more about DeFi and crypto, I just start to see a lot of opportunity to bring ways to improve financial outcomes, to earn more interest on your money for people who may not have had those opportunities before because of the way the system was built before.
Yeah.
So that's kind of
Yeah,
what
no,
motivates me.
that is an awesome reason for why to be part of this industry. And to the point, what you kind of really emphasizing is it's opening up access to everyone, right? To make
Yeah.
everyone's life kind of so whereas we had some sort of barriers with the centralization model versus now with the decentralization, is really it's all for everyone. So now I got one more question, which is a little bit of a plug to Tim Ferriss. And you've been asking everyone, what would
Oh,
be
yeah.
something that you would put on a big white billboard? But what would be your message?
I should have thought of that. Yeah. So what comes to mind first is probably like treat others the way you would like to be treated. Or I heard someone say, I think they called it like the silver rule.
Mhm.
Like don't do to others what you wouldn't want them to do to you.
Yeah,
But basically, like if everyone could just follow that rule, I think the world would be a much better place.
exactly.
So yeah.
Yeah. No, perfect. Thanks, Dan. I think there's so much coming, especially with the Acalas. All the communications will be sent out pretty much. I'm sure it's going to go out and, inform the community. And thank you so much for making the time. I'll let you go. And I'm sure we'll get you back in here probably soon for another conversation. And thank you
For sure.
also to the audiences who have made their time to kind of join us here. So really appreciate it. And then call out any questions and stuff. We'll probably touch base offline. Anything for you, Dan, before we wrap up?
Nope. Hey, John, I see John's in the call, but thanks everybody for joining. This has been awesome. Let's definitely do it again. I don't think you could have timed this any better. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, our Discord is the best place to go. We've got people constantly watching, replying to messages there. And yeah, let us know if you have questions, but looking forward to communicating all the next steps on Karura and Acala. So thanks for joining.
All right. Thanks, everybody.